The day my mom walked into that office, her hands shaking and her voice breaking, I remember every word. The principal leaned back in his leather chair, glanced at her like she was something stuck to his shoe, and said, "We don't tolerate freeloaders. This school isn't a charity." I was 14. We had just gotten kicked out of the only school that ever gave me a shot. I got in through a scholarship. My mom worked 2 jobs, gas station at night, diner in the morning. She applied for every single program that could help cover books, uniforms, and food. I kept my head down, did my work, didn't talk much. I wasn't the kind of kid who caused trouble, but it didn't matter. I wore shoes from Payless. I brought free lunches wrapped in foil. I didn't have AirPods, or a last name people recognized. The kids noticed. And one kid, Nate Bishop, made it his mission to make my life hell. His dad was a trustee. Nate was everything I wasn't. Tall, rich, cocky, with a school-named auditorium thanks to his family. When he failed a math test and found out I got the highest score, he flipped. A week later, I got called into the office. They said I copied him. They had no evidence. They didn't need any. I was expelled that same week. My mom begged. She cried. She told them she'd pull double shifts to pay tuition if that's what it took. But they said, "Your son just doesn't fit here." For a while, I believed them. I hated myself. I sat in our apartment, watching the light from the hallway flicker through the window blind. I almost gave up. Then COVID hit. Kids at that same school needed help passing remote classes. I started tutoring them online. Parents paid more than I expected. Word spread. I built a website. I made my own videos. I hired a friend to code better features. I learned marketing. Then I raised money. I turned it into a full platform, low-cost tutoring for anyone, rich or poor. By the time I was 19, my company had over 40,000 users. A news article came out about that school. Embezzlement, shady donations, the whole place under fire. Their funding dried up. Staff left. Enrollment crashed. The land went up for sale. I bought it. Full deed. All of it. The first thing I did was invite the principal to a meeting. He walked into the same office I had once cried in. I was sitting in his old chair. "You," he said. "Yeah," I nodded. "The freeloader." I fired him on the spot. Then I turned the school into a free access learning hub. No tuition. No dress code. No donations needed. Just kids who wanted to learn. And I made sure every scholarship kid got their own seat, their own laptop, and their own name on the wall. They called me the charity case from the day I stepped into the school. I was there because a local donor paid my tuition. My mom couldn't afford it, not even close. She cleaned houses and sometimes picked up shifts as a cashier. We lived in a tiny apartment above a liquor store, but she told me this school would change everything. And for a while I believed her. The school was full of rich kids. Brand-name sneakers, private drivers, fancy vacations every break. I had one pair of shoes from Ross and a backpack stitched up with dental floss. At first, I tried to stay invisible, but when you look different, you don't get to hide. One day someone filmed me eating a squished peanut butter sandwich by myself and added the caption, "Lunch with the Charity Project." It went viral, among the students at least. No one got in trouble for it. Instead, I was called in by the vice principal and told I should try not to make myself a target. That was their solution. After that, anything that went wrong somehow became my fault. A missing calculator? Blame me. Vandalism in the bathroom? Blame me. One girl lost her jacket and actually said, "He probably needed it more." Like I was a walking charity bin. Then came the real blow. My donor changed banks, and the tuition transfer was delayed by 1 week. Just 1 week. I brought proof, my mom even called. But the school didn't care. They said it violated policy. I was expelled for a payment issue. No second chance. No appeal. Just a formal letter and a meeting where they smiled like they were doing me a favor. I left with nothing. At first, I was angry. Then I got focused. I found an old laptop in the trash and fixed it up using YouTube videos. I sold it on eBay for $80. I did it again. Then again. I started hunting thrift stores for broken tech, fixing it, flipping it. I filmed my process and posted it. People started watching. I showed them how to fix things, how to sell, how to start small. I built a YouTube channel, then a website, then a business. By the time I turned 25, I had employees, a warehouse, and a loyal customer base. I started an LLC and got investors. I became CEO of a growing tech refurb company. One day, an investment opportunity came across my desk. The land lease for a school, the same school that kicked me out, was up for sale. The owners were struggling, begging donors for funds. I bought the lease under my company's name. I walked into a board meeting they didn't know I'd be attending. They stared as I sat at the head of the table and laid out new terms. No more legacy admissions, no more donations for favors, no more kicking kids out for being poor. They had to beg for funding, and I made sure no one there would ever forget the name of the charity case who bought them out. My mom always packed my lunch. Leftover soup, rice, beans, whatever we had from dinner. She'd warm it up in the morning and pour it into an old thermos. It wasn't fancy, but it was made with love. That mattered to me, but not to the school. I went to a private academy full of wealthy kids. Their lunches came in sleek bento boxes or were delivered from nearby cafes. My hand-me-down backpack and dented thermos made me stick out. Every week, a teacher would do random lunch checks, and somehow mine was always chosen. One day, a kid made a loud gagging noise when I opened my soup. The others laughed. I wanted to disappear. Then the principal called me in. He told me there had been complaints, that my lunch was creating discomfort. He said it might be a sanitation concern. I told him it was just homemade soup. He said that didn't matter. 2 days later, I was expelled. The official reason was that I violated food safety policies. The PTA backed it, saying the school had to maintain standards. My mom cried when she got the letter. She blamed herself, said maybe she should have packed something else. I hated that she even thought that. I didn't go back to school. I started helping out at home, watching cooking videos in my free time. One night, I decided to make my own. I took my mom's leftover rice and a can of beans, added some chopped onion, and made a meal. I filmed it on my cracked phone and posted it with the title, How to Eat Good with $2. It blew up. People loved it. I started posting more, meals from dollar stores, leftovers, food stamps. I made them look good. I made them taste great. My channel grew. Then brands noticed. I got sponsors. I launched my own line of low-cost, high-quality pantry items. Eventually, I started a company, Real Food for Real People. 2 years after being expelled, I got a call from a broker. The school I had been kicked out of was in financial trouble. Donations were down, enrollment was dropping, and the cafeteria had failed a real health inspection. The land was going up for auction. I bought it. When I walked into the building again, the walls were the same, but everything felt smaller. I turned the cafeteria into a student-run kitchen. I brought in chefs to teach. We made it free for all students, no judgment, no shame. And I put up a photo of my old thermos on the kitchen wall. The principal who kicked me out? Gone. Now kids eat fresh, homemade meals every day. And no one ever gets mocked for their lunch. I was one of the top students in the whole school. Straight A's, perfect scores in science, and I even tutored some of the seniors when they struggled. At first, teachers praised me, called me a genius, said I had a bright future. That changed when they found out I was on financial aid. Suddenly, I was invisible. My name stopped getting called during award ceremony. I wasn't chosen for any group project. My desk got moved to the back. When sign-ups opened for the National Science Fair, I applied with a project I had spent months working on. The school told me they didn't have the budget to sponsor me. A week later, the donor's son got the funding for a project he copied from the internet. I should have known what was coming next. One afternoon, I got called into the principal's office. There was a missing box of lab materials, test tubes, sensors, wires. The principal said someone saw me leaving the lab. I told him I was working on my project, like always. He didn't believe me. Or maybe he didn't want to. I was suspended pending investigation, and then expelled 2 days later. No proof. Just a rumor. My mom couldn't fight it. We didn't have lawyers, we didn't have time. She just said, we'll find another way. So I did. I used the only thing I had, my brain. I'd been working on a simple AI tool to help me study, something that could break down complex topics into small lessons. I built it into an app. At first, I used it for myself. Then I shared it with a few friends. They loved it. I made a public version and uploaded it. It spread fast. Students started using it across the country. Then schools noticed. Then investors. I improved it, added features, hired a small team. Within a year, I had a company. Within 2, it was worth millions. One day, I got an alert about a local property auction. The old school building had failed inspections, mold issues, fire code violations, unpaid taxes. The district was selling it off. I bought it. I kept most of the staff, but I replaced the principal with my old chemistry teacher, the only one who ever believed in me, even after I was kicked out. We reopened the school under a new name. No tuition, no uniforms, no donation list, just kids who wanted to learn. I walked through the halls one morning and saw a group of students working with the AI tool I had built. They didn't know who I was. They didn't care. And that's how I knew I'd won. They said I'd be nothing without their school. Turns out, they're nothing without me. I was never in the yearbook. Not in class photos, not in club pages, not even listed in the student directory. I checked every page twice. It was like I never went there at all. I was one of only a few low-income kids at that school. They loved to say they were diverse, put it on brochures, websites, banners. But when it came to showing real poor kids like me, they left us out. On purpose. I was on the robotics team. I helped us win state. But in the group photo they sent to the paper, they cropped me out. No explanation. I asked the teacher and he said, it wasn't intentional, but it kept happening: group projects, sports day, volunteer events. I was always missing. I stopped asking. Then came the homecoming prank. Someone trashed the gym with glitter, balloons, and spray paint. They said there was a security camera, but no one ever saw the footage. Still, the principal called me into his office and said, "We know it was you." It wasn't, but a rich kid whose dad donated the new scoreboard said he heard. I was bragging about it. That was all it took. I was expelled the next morning. No warning. No second chance. My mom tried to fight it. She cried and said I worked too hard to be treated like this. But no one listened. The school just said he never really fit in. I took that personally. I stayed home for a year. I didn't waste it. I learned to code. I started taking online courses on cybersecurity, data protection, and systems management. I was good at it, really good. I got certified, then started freelancing. Within 2 years, I had my own company helping small businesses protect their digital data. That's when I found something interesting. A former teacher from the school called me for help. Their internal server had been breached. While fixing it, I saw files, private ones, showing that the school was using student photos and names in ad campaigns without consent, including scholarship kids, including me. I had proof now, of everything. I sued them for unauthorized use of student data, privacy violations, and discrimination. They settled fast. Part of that deal, I gained control over their digital system. Everything from the yearbook archives to their website now ran through my platform. I deleted every record that erased me. Then I rebuilt it all, this time with transparency. Every student, every story, every background. No one could be hidden again. Now the school reports directly to my tech firm. They can't fake their image anymore. Their diversity has to be real. The boy they erased? He's the one holding the master password. My mom was the school janitor. She scrubbed toilets, mopped floors, and stayed late to clean up after events. She did it with pride because the job came with one big benefit. I got to attend the school for free under the service staff scholarship. It was a fancy private school. Most kids showed up in Teslas. I showed up early with my mom because we didn't have a car. I didn't talk much, but I got straight A's. Teachers praised my work, but never said my name out loud during assemblies. I didn't care. I was just trying to make my mom proud. The rich kids didn't like me. They laughed at my clothes, called me the mop kid, said I was only there because I picked up their trash. One day in the cafeteria, one of them shoved my tray off the table. I stood up and pushed him back. That was all it took. They called it violent behavior. I was expelled by the end of the day. No hearing, no explanation, just a cold letter handed to my mom during her shift. The next day, she was fired. No warning, no severance. Just, we don't want complications between students and staff. The principal said it was a conflict of class. We went home in silence. I could see my mom blaming herself. That broke me more than anything. I didn't go back to school. I started helping my mom clean apartments and office buildings. During breaks, I looked up ways to earn money online. That's when I got an idea, a simple app that connected students from low-income homes with real online work. Surveys, captioning, tutoring, basic freelance gig. I built it slowly. I didn't know how to code, so I learned on YouTube. I tested it with a few friends. It worked. More kids joined. Word spread. 2 years later, I had a team. 5 years later, I had investors. The app became one of the top tools for student job access. We helped thousands of teens earn money from their phones. No connections, no fancy resumes, just work. Then I heard the school was going under. They couldn't afford to stay open. Bad money management. Donations dried up. The land was being listed as mixed-use commercial property. I bought it. Not as a school, but as a space. We turned it into a co-working campus with one condition. A full wing dedicated to free education for children of janitors, security guards, and cafeteria workers. Taught by volunteer teachers, run with real heart. And the principal? He works part-time now, under contract, doing admin for the co-working. I sign his paychecks. The kid they called the mop boy now owns the floors he used to sweep. I still remember the way they said it. Cold, sharp, final. You'll never set foot here again. They didn't even let me pack up my locker. Just handed me the letter and told me to leave. I was 16. I had never gotten in trouble before. I always sat in the front row, always turned in my work early. I wasn't loud. I didn't skip class. I didn't even use my phone during lunch. But one day, a teacher said I was making others uncomfortable. No warning, no explanation. My mom was shocked. She asked for proof, for details. They said it was private, confidential, that I had disrupted the learning environment. That was it. I found out the truth a few months later. That teacher's son was in my grade. We were in all the same advanced classes. He had always been just behind me in test scores. Apparently, he didn't like that. He told his mom I was bullying him, that I made him feel unsafe. Total lie. But it worked. They got rid of me. For a while, I stayed quiet. But I started sharing my story online. Other kids messaged me, saying the same thing happened to them. Kicked out, pushed out, blamed for things they didn't do. I started speaking at schools, libraries, youth centers, anywhere that would have me. I talked about being blamed, being silenced, being erased. My videos started going viral. I launched a nonprofit. We help teens tell their stories, fight unfair school discipline, and get legal advice. I raised money, hired staff, built programs. We helped hundreds of students stay in school. Then one day, I saw a quiet listing for a school property in my hometown. It was that school. Low enrollment, high costs, bad press. They were going under. I contacted a law firm and created a holding company. Bought the land, the building, everything without revealing my name. A few weeks later, I walked through the front doors. They didn't recognize me. I held a staff meeting. Every teacher had to reapply for their job. New rules. New culture. No favoritism. No secrets. The teacher who lied about me? She walked in and froze. Her face turned pale. "I thought you'd never set foot here again," she whispered. I smiled. "Funny. I'm the one holding the master key now." She didn't get rehired. We turned the school into a place where every student mattered. Not just the rich ones, not just the quiet ones, not just the ones with the right last name. I walk those halls now every week. Not as a student, as the owner. My phone screen cracked during gym class. It slipped out of my hoodie and hit the floor face down. I picked it up, screen shattered, corner chipped. It still worked, barely. Later that day in math, a kid sitting near me whispered, "Looks like a burner." Some of the others laughed. I didn't think much of it, just another joke about me being the poor kid. But the teachers heard it. The next morning, I got pulled into the office. The principal and a security guard were waiting. They asked if they could look through my phone. I said no. It was mine. I hadn't done anything wrong. They didn't like that. They said there were rumors I was involved in illegal activity, that my phone was suspicious, that students claimed I was acting shady. They had no proof, no names, nothing, just a broken phone and some gossip. I was expelled the same day. No hearing, no explanation. My mom came in crying, asking what happened. They said it was a safety concern. I sat there while they talked about me like I was some kind of threat. I had no record, no past trouble, nothing. Just a cracked phone and a cheap jacket. That's when I realized it wasn't about what I did. It was about what I looked like, poor, quiet, and not worth their time. I was angry, but I didn't waste it. I took that same broken phone and learned how to fix it. I watched repair videos, practiced on old parts, messed up a lot, but I got better. Then I started fixing phones for neighbors, then for their friends. I charged cheap, worked fast, and never said no. Within a year, I opened a tiny repair booth in a strip mall. Then another, and another. I hired others who couldn't get jobs because they didn't have degrees. We grew. Fast. By the time I was 24, we had repair shops in 6 states and a training program for teens who wanted to learn tech. Then I heard the school was broke. Low test scores, funding cuts, bad press. No one wanted to send their kids there anymore. They were trying to sell the building. I made an offer they couldn't refuse. I bought it. I turned half of it into a tech training center, free for students from low-income families. We taught coding, repairs, digital security. No tuition, no tests, no uniform. The office that once accused me of being a criminal? It's now our server room. And the principal? He applied for a consulting job with us a few months ago. I didn't return his email. I wore a pair of plain black shoes from Payless. They cost my mom $17 on clearance. I kept them clean, polished them every morning before school. I liked them, but the kids at my private school didn't. A rich kid saw them in the hallway one day and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Those look like shoes a janitor would wear." People laughed. Teachers looked the other way. It wasn't the first time something like that happened. Even the dean made a joke once during lunch duty. He looked at my outfit and said, "We really need to raise the dress code standard." I wanted to disappear. Then it got worse. At a school assembly, the same rich kid made a fake fashion awards slideshow and put my picture under least likely to be sponsored. The whole auditorium laughed. Someone filmed it and posted it online. I went home sick that day. Instead of hiding, I posted about it. I made a short video explaining how kids like me were treated at elite schools, how we were shamed for being poor while the school claimed to care about inclusion. I didn't name names. I just told the truth. The post blew up. A few days later, the school expelled me. They said I was causing division and damaging the school's reputation. They said I attacked the community. All I did was speak up. They thought that would be the end of it. But I had something they didn't expect, people who believed in me. Strangers reached out after my video. A small investor saw potential in my voice and my story. I started designing my own shoes, simple, stylish, affordable. I launched an online store. It took off. People loved the message. dignity without a price tag. I started making shoes with recycled materials. Then I opened a small warehouse. Then I built a team. Orders came in from everywhere. A few years later, I bought shares in several private school boards, including the one that ran my old school. Slowly, quietly, I became the majority shareholder. At the next board meeting, I showed up in a tailored suit and the same style of shoes I was expelled for. When the dean walked in, he froze. I smiled. I believe you called these janitor shoes. Then I voted to fire him and every board member who backed the expulsion. The school didn't shut down. I made sure of that. But every incoming student now gets a free pair of our shoes, no matter where they come from. Because no kid should be judged by what they wear on their feet. My mom worked 3 jobs. She cleaned offices at night, served tables in the morning, and took care of other people's kids in the afternoon. She barely slept. Everything she did was so I could go to a school that promised opportunity. But they never saw me that way. I was the only kid from an immigrant family in my grade. I got good grades, won essay contests, and volunteered after school. Still, they treated me like a problem. I got called to the office constantly, for things like using the wrong staircase or not raising my hand fast enough. They called my mom in for meetings over every little thing. One time, she came straight from her cleaning job. She still had gloves in her pocket. The principal looked her up and down and said, "Maybe some people just shouldn't have kids." She didn't say anything. She just nodded and looked at the floor. I've never seen her that small. Things got worse during college application season. I spent weeks writing my main essay. It was about my mom, her strength, her silence, her sacrifices. I poured everything into it. Then they accused me of plagiarism. No proof, no warning. Just said the essay. Didn't sound like something I could write. They expelled me and flagged my applications. At the school fundraiser that weekend, the principal told a table full of donors, "We try, but some kids just don't belong here." He said it loud, proud even, but colleges didn't buy it. One school asked me for an interview. I told them everything. They gave me a full ride. At college, I studied finance and tech. I realized how hard it is for first-generation students to manage money, credit, and tuition. So I built something, a simple app that explained banking, budgeting, and loans in plain English. I launched it quietly. Then it went viral. Students loved it. So did parents. Investors came next. The platform grew fast. We got featured in news articles, won Innovation Award. I hired a team. I started speaking at events. Then one day, the school that expelled me emailed us asking for a partnership. They wanted to use our platform to show they supported underrepresented students. I didn't reply. Instead, I bought the property. Not just the building, but the whole campus. We shut it down and reopened it as a boarding school for immigrant children. Full scholarships, real meals, warm beds. Teachers who understood what respect means. My mom cut the ribbon at the opening ceremony. She wore the same gloves she had once stuffed in her coat pocket. The principal? He sent a letter asking to join the advisory board. I framed it and hung it in the hallway under a sign that says, "You were wrong."
Hi besties, thank you so much for watching to the end. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe.